country in the world can invest. A startup from any country in the world can invest. And right now we are sitting here on this panel and talk about investors only. So the theme of this conference is STO Future. How do we look into the future from the perspective of not only the regulator but the exchange? Can we see the same opportunity for a John from the US, or Catherine from Germany, or Maria from Russia, invest same way in a startup, like I don't know, Kickstarter, or go into exchange and buy and trade security tokens.
It's kind of what I was talking about before when it comes to the user experience. A lot of the complexity of purchasing any sort of security is quite high. And so not only does it require you to be an investor to fall under a certain category, but it also just requires time and energy to learn how to do it. So for us, something that we're trying to do is really partner with the equivalent of a broker-dealer in multiple markets, so that we can have as broad of a swath of individuals use the platform as possible. And then our it's simple, but our interface is it doesn't look like traditional exchange. The old platform looks like a vending machine. The new platform looks like a chat interface, and so it's lowering the bar for knowledge to be able to participate in these once you do hit those accredited investor standards. But really, we're approaching it from both sides.
I was just going to say, I think we have to go back and really peel back the layers and understand the objectives behind the regulations surrounding security token offerings and security offerings in general, is to protect investors, right? In the ICO world, technically you're not investing. You're, right? You're actually buying into a product or a service. And it's the speculative value just came as a side benefit. That's not really the objective of that particular product. And so I heard Professor Steve McCohen's blog about how this is the difference between the capital markets and the product markets. Capital markets are regulated because people have an expectation of a return on profit, a return on their investment. Whereas you shouldn't have that expectation initially in the ICO world, although it did open up a whole world for startups to gain access to new forms of funding. But I think it's very different. And in terms of how exchanges fit into this whole space, the Singapore regulators have been very open about innovation is always going to front run regulation, because regulators just can't keep up, especially with this form of technology. So I think they're very open, at least in Singapore, very open to understand the technology based on our experience. Even talking about custody solutions, they're willing to listen to what it is that the technology is trying to solve, and based on that assessment, decide on whether you can go into a sandbox or fit under some other licensing regime. So that's why I think for security token exchanges, it's important to see where you're regulated and whether you need to be regulated as an initial starting point. And I think in most jurisdictions you need to be regulated.
Yes, at the end of the day, the regulation is in place, as you have been saying, to protect the investors. You mentioned it before, some ICOs were a scam. Actually, the regulations are in place to protect investors for falling into this kind of scams, because there's an asymmetry of information. The ones selling the token or the security of the asset know more about it in general than the people receiving it. And having this kind of categorization of investors, limiting only to accredited investors, or to qualified investors, or requiring a certain disclosure of information from companies that tends to be a very expensive and complex mechanism, it sure that there's enough knowledge from the investors about the company so that they know it's not a scam, or that investors themselves have an experience and have a level of assets that they can take that risk without putting in risk their whole assets. And I think that the digital securities, this could improve further, because right now the regulation is very binary. It's you're accredited, you can invest; you're not accredited, you cannot invest, in certain exceptions. Or the reporting requirements for companies are very strict and very expensive. But having digital securities that are programmable, that could have more logic inside of them, could allow a more granular approach in which, depending on the kind of company, their past performance regarding their founders, the market it operates with certain assumptions and more complex category of investors, not only whether they are accredited or not, but how much money they're willing to invest in relation with their assets, etc., could allow finding a more granular approach in which more investors would be able, without getting in risk, to access more opportunities in the market in a global way. And right now that's not possible because checking all that information and making sure that would happen would be very complex, very expensive. But if it becomes something that is software and that resides in the blockchain, it would simplify a lot and completely change capital markets.
Yeah, I have a deep feeling about financial inclusion because we're serving global customers, and we often, there's 1 billion people in the world right now doesn't have bank account at all. So don't talk about regulation, don't talk about equity investor. I don't understand any kind of that. So, okay, if you're a Chinese company, if you're a blockchain company, and you would like to our country, our citizens, to have a financial inclusion via blockchain technology, how do we do that? I would say, yeah, blockchain technology is a immutable database array or just a database, just settlement system, fully transparent, fully auditable. And regulation of those kind of principles actually share similar characteristics. So when talk about regulation, we always talk about I need to identify the ultimate beneficiaries. I need to make sure the investor has the test. I need to make sure that the money is going to comply all kind of AML rules. I need to make sure the product or the thing that's least protection offered to the public is not a scam. That's certain thing. It's all about keep trace and track. So I would say, yeah, you don't need to have a financial system, the regulatory framework, just like US and Hong Kong, because your developing countries don't have a bank account. But you can leverage the exact similar blockchain technology with the similar regulatory principle. So as a regulator, powered by the blockchain technology, you have a very good oversight, a penetrated oversight, what we call it, to trace all kind of transactions from KYC to the entire link of transaction within your jurisdiction. So you might not need a bank account, you might not need to have a banking system or banking network within your developing countries. You might just need a telecom company. You need somebody with cash, with a phone number. Then we can put everything in place with a digital cash, creating a digital securities, creating a security token within just on your jurisdiction. And that's how what is exciting. And that's the beauty of blockchain.
Well, I don't know if the audience noticed, like our panel is called Exchanges, and actually what we are talking about most of the time is regulation. And that's extremely interesting, because we have STOs or guys who are planning STOs or in the process of the STOs. Some of them are sponsors, they were on stage. So in light of time, I have actually 2 questions. Again, one is related to the future. That's the topic of the whole conference, right? What do you think about liquidity? What do you think where the STO exchange is going to be in 1 year time? And one piece of advice for the guys that are staging an STO, planning it, What should they do? Should they wait for the exchange to start operational? Should they do private placement at the same time? How long should they wait? Please.
Yeah, I think sorry to be a bit pedantic here, but the reality is once you talk about the securities offer and you talk about the exchange, that exchange in and of itself is another licensing category. That's an exchange license, and that is very hard to get in all respect. So if anybody really wants to do a securities token offering, as I said before, and as demonstrated, I think, by Polymath presentation as well, you'll have to follow private placement rules. If you want to do it in a public offer, then you need to, and there are already, I think, two, at least Gibraltar allows that, and Malta allows that. So if you really want to do that specifically, then find a jurisdiction where the licensed securities exchange is already allowing tokenized securities. But it's very few markets right now, but it's the beginning of something, right? So I'm just being pragmatic, you see what I'm saying? So let's say our exchange, as I introduced at the beginning, is a non-securities token exchange right now. So Poloniex does not list securities tokens, because if it did, then we would need to take into account all these rules around the world, right? So inversely, let's say Seed Invest is a crowdfunding platform, I think not dissimilar from what you are doing, and it complies with the rules around crowdfunding, which is the whole Jobs Act. So, but consequently as well, it is a US platform, it's not a global platform at this stage. So you need to look at, from business side, you need to look at your business and say, okay, I can do this without violating legislation or regulation. Or I can do this while being compliant with existing regulation. But right now there is very few places where you have a licensed exchange on which you can launch these tokens.
What about the future?
Well, I think in the future there will be, once regulators start realizing some of the benefits of this as a placement method, and some of the things that can be built in terms of automation, etc., then you will see more of that. But it's highly likely as well that the stock exchanges will start noticing that at the same time.
I think your time scale of 1 year is generous. The time it'll take for the regulations to I guess fully catch up with technology or maybe never catch up will be a lot longer than that. So the liquidity of some of these STOs in the near term, in the 1 year time frame, I still think will be quite limited. Because of everything we talked about for the last hour. Give it 5 years and maybe things are a little bit different, but I do think that it's a marathon, not a sprint here. So a lot of the stuff is going to happen slowly and surely over time. With regards to whether STOs should wait or just go, personally, I'm just a big fan of testing and iterating and communication and conversation. And so I think topics like this and conferences like this are great. Having these discussions directly with regulators is also great. Exchanges are going to continue to try to do what they do. I don't think anyone's really waiting. A lot of people are building right now, especially in this type of market. And so yeah, I would say don't wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do agree. 1 year is a very short time frame. But I do think that perhaps more of the institutional money that we've all been talking about will start coming into the security tokens offerings, because it is regulated, and there will be custody solutions if that's required. And in terms of the number of platforms, we saw T0, Open Finance, some of the first ones regulated and licensed. And they've also been leading the way in actually recognizing tokenized issuances or digital issuances. The state of Delaware, Wyoming, and we are also exploring that with a corporate secretary that can do digital issuances as well. So you know, I'm optimistic there will be more player exchanges in the space. We hope to be one of the first in Asia. But on the STO advice, I would say, yeah, definitely don't wait, because the process, as you said, may be a bit longer, but when the exchanges are ready, they'll need to have these STOs to provide the liquidity, to provide the product and listing. So we need both sides. And as I mentioned earlier, InvestorCloud's already assessing 15 STOs, but at the same time, you need a regulated secondary market to trade them, so both are important.
Piece of advice: don't underestimate the difficulty in operating exchanges. So even matching engine level, someday your client will say, I want to have please implement. It's not that there's a lot of trivial matters that, especially in technological perspective, that is very different than traditional stock exchange or derivative exchanges. And in KYC and AML perspective, when you're trying to allow your customer to wire your token back to the wallet, it's just string to string. It's not bank accounts. It's nothing. So you need to have an enhanced and tailor-made withdrawal procedures. So a lot of operational and technical difficulties has to be implemented and to design before you execute an exchange. And second piece of advice is don't wait for regulators. So they will come in place if they know the value is actually created, and security token do have a positive impact in the existing financial system. So it's not like you're saying the regulator, why I have a pretty good license type 1 to type 14 right now in Hong Kong. Why do you need another regulatory regime in security token? No, it's not a security token. It's not a collective investment scheme. It's not something security. It's something more. So we need to persuade. We're trying to persuade, but don't wait for that. Do it and show the benefit to the public. And finally, in the future, 1 year ahead of time, I would advise that a missing pieces in security token is a smart contract audit. Right now we have PwC, KPMG, those kind of financial audits. But in future, for security token, we don't have financial reports. We don't need the financial reports. But I do need some kind of technological audit, a co-audit on the smart contract level. Because Ethereum platform is always trying to steal money from platform. So it's hackable protocol. So as an exchange, we can't worry. So we need to employ multiple smart contract auditors to make sure the contract is right, is perfectly coded. So, but I need a big four-line auditor in this world to help us on that. So I think it's a good piece of advice, a good piece of missing ecosystem as well.
Okay, so in the availability thing, maybe I'm an optimist, or maybe we're working with some partners that have been mentioned here, that I think that at least some of digital securities are going to have secondary market liquidity before the end of the year. So that's coming pretty soon. And regarding what's the first thing that someone from an SPO should do, come talk to Securitize. We can help you to make that a reality.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, fellow panelists. They were the words of encouragement. A lot of positive things were said. Give them a round of applause. And if you have any questions, to circle to the guys, the service. I think I'm the last one, so please, at least a couple of you come. And afterwards, we're going to have cocktails, so a great opportunity to network. Please stay at least till 7 o'clock.